Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some breaking news coming out from the Russia-Ukraine war to share with you. This is going to be kind of a follow-up video to a video I did just 2 days ago. I reported that the port of Kavkaz in the Kerch Strait, that is in between Crimea and the Russian mainland, it was struck by Ukrainian drones, and there was a ferry that was being used by the Russian military at this port, and this ferry got struck as well, and apparently it was destroyed from what we understand. So from what I know, this ferry was Russia's last ferry that they were using to transport military equipment from the Russian mainland over to Kerch, which is part of Crimea, and they would transfer liquefied natural gas, they would transfer fuel, all kinds of stuff. Military equipment would be transferred using this ferry, and the name of this ferry was called the Slavianin. Okay, so we reported this just a few days ago, and this is the story right here, okay? It's from Igor Sushko. Ukraine severely damaged the last functional Russian cargo ferry for rail cars, 150-meter long Slavianin at Port Kavkas next to the Kerch Bridge, which connects occupied Crimea to Russia. So we did a whole video talking about this ferry coming under attack and being struck at the Port of Kavkaz. So the story that we've got now that's developing is UK intelligence is coming out and saying that the fact that Ukraine struck this final ferry that Russia had, okay, they had 3 of them, 2 of them were destroyed back in May, and they only had 1 of these left. So now that this thing has been completely destroyed, they don't have a way of transporting liquefied natural gas, fuel, military equipment, ammunition, whatever it might be that heads over to Crimea, that they don't have any other way of doing this anymore. Now the cheapest way for them to do so is going to be traveling through the Kerch Bridge. Now the Kerch Bridge that you see here in the photo is also a target by Ukraine at some point. I think they will target this bridge again coming into the future. And this is going to create more logistical problems for Russia trying to transport anything from the Russian mainland over to Crimea. Now, this kind of follows into something I've been mentioning a lot lately, that I think at some point Ukraine may make an attempt to try to retake Crimea. Now, that sounds crazy, I understand that, but I've got lots of information to show you that at least bare minimum, we understand that the Ukrainians are planning this at some point, okay? Or they, at least in the meantime, they want to make it very difficult for Russia to transport goods over to Crimea, and that's obviously the first step. Okay, they've already done that. They've chased all the Russian warships out of this area, out of the Black Sea. So there's definitely going to be an attempt at some point, is what it seems like to me, from the Ukrainians to try to retake Crimea. So let me show you some stuff here. I've got a map pulled up here real quick, and I just want to show you what I'm talking about here. So this is Crimea down here. Here's Ukrainian mainland. Crimea is currently annexed by the Russians. And right in between here, this is the Russian mainland over here, the Krasnodar region. Okay, and then here's Crimea, and then here's Kerch right here. So the attack that we had that happened the other day was here at the Port of Kavkaz, okay? So right here, there was a ferry that was docked here, and it got struck and destroyed. And Russia uses this port here to transport goods from the Port of Kavkaz over to Crimea, okay? Over to Kerch or any ports over here heading over to Crimea. Now that this port cannot be used anymore because they don't have a ferry that's usable to transport goods anymore, now they're going to have to use the Kerch Bridge, which has come under attack before and is obviously a target for Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine eventually wants to target this bridge and destroy it because it makes it very easy for Russia to bring things over to the Crimean Peninsula. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about here. So we're going to talk some more about this Kerch Bridge right here, because this is obviously going to be a target at some point, and I want to talk about how important it's going to be for Russia to have to use this bridge now that they don't have the Port of Kavkaz as an opportunity to bring goods into the Crimean Peninsula. So let's get into this article here real quick on Ukrainska Pravda. UK Defense Intelligence: strike on ferry at Kavkaz port will force Russia to transport fuel via Kerch Bridge. Okay, this came out today. And it says here, the intelligence service says this strike will almost certainly cause further logistical problems for Russia in supplying its occupation forces in southern Ukraine and for regional exports of liquefied natural gas. The review notes that the Slavyanin has a capacity of 3 similar ferries that transit through the Kerch Strait between Russia and the Crimean Peninsula. After successful Ukrainian missile strikes damaged 2 other vessels of this type on May 29, 2024, the Slavyanin had been put back into service following a collision at the end of 2023. Before its redeployment, the Slavyanin was likely transporting liquefied gas through the Kerch port for further export. The intelligence highlighted that rendering such ferries non-operational, even temporarily, is highly likely to increase costs and reduce Russia's flexibility in transporting fuel, ammunition, and equipment through the Kerch Strait. So just this alone right here, think about that. The fact that it's going to increase costs for them, they're already fighting a war that is very, very expensive, okay? They're launching million-dollar missiles into Ukraine very frequently. I've been hearing lots of reports of the Sumy region and also the Kharkiv region coming under attack by multiple Iskander missiles quite frequently, and these are $3 million missiles every time they're fired. Okay, so Russia's spending a lot of money on this war. Now they're going to have to fork up a bunch of money just to transport goods along the Kerch Bridge over to the Crimean Peninsula. And it's going to make it more expensive for them and more difficult at the same time to transport these goods across this bridge. And then imagine if this bridge actually gets taken out at some point. That might sound crazy, but who knows if it does. It has been hit before. So imagine if the Ukrainians were somehow able to destroy this bridge. What would Russia do at this point with Crimea? It says here, quote, "It is highly likely that Russia will now have to risk the movement of fuel train assets across the Kerch Bridge, something it had tried to avoid since the first attack on the bridge in October 2022, the review reads." Excuse me. So obviously they're going to have to start using this bridge as they've got no other methods to try to transport goods cheaply from the Russian mainland over to Crimea. Okay, so that's why we're talking about this today. So I've got a few other things that I want to discuss regarding the Kerch Bridge. I've got a couple things that I want to show you here on X. Okay, so take a look at these. This is from Mila Alien. It says Russians in Kerch are constructing fortifications near the Crimean Bridge, according to Radio Liberty, which has published a photo showing a floating crane in the waters of Kerch Strait. Additionally, the number of barges being used by the Russians to protect the bridge from sea drones has increased. So what's being reported right now is that the Russians are not only fortifying this bridge, but there's also reports that the Russians are bringing over lots of air defense systems, the ones that they have that are left that are remaining, and they're trying their very best to defend this bridge as this is really all they've got, and this is a big sign that Russia is going to be desperate to protect this bridge, considering this is the only method they have to transport goods into Crimea. So it looks like when it comes to Crimea, Russia may be on one of their last legs here in defending this territory. And what's going to happen here at some point, like I said, if this bridge comes under attack, whether it be by naval drones or whether it be by Ukrainian missiles, or maybe at some point if the United States allows them to use ATACMS or something like that, what's going to happen if this bridge gets destroyed? That's the big question here. So take a look at these as well. This is from Nexta. Zelensky reported success in the development of Ukrainian long-range missiles. Our missile program has good dynamics, and although it is a hard task, we are gradually approaching the ability to use our own missiles and not rely on missiles and supplies from partners, the Ukrainian president said. So this is something that came out yesterday from Volodymyr Zelensky, stating that their missile system is they're approaching the ability to use their own missiles and strike deep inside of Russian territory. This could possibly include the Kerch Bridge if they wanted to go after it. Okay, that they could start striking it with their own missiles and not have to wait for the United States to give them the okay to use ATACMS, or Britain to allow them to use the British Storm Shadow missiles, because obviously this has been a big issue for Ukraine, trying to ask for support from the West to allow them to strike targets inside of Russian territory much deeper than they're allowed to attack right now. So because this is such a big problem for them, they're trying to push to use their own missiles, and these could include their Neptune missiles that they currently have right now, and that's what I want to talk about here coming up as well. So this is from Ukraine Battle Map. Ukraine will increase the range of their Neptune missiles to 1,000 kilometers and increase production of Neptune missiles by 10 times so they can strike targets deep inside of Russia. So think about this. This actually came out back in April of this year, and it says this will allow Ukraine to hit Russian ships at further distances and reach 59 of Russia's 99 air bases. So this is something that's been talked about for coming up on a year now, actually. Ukraine's been working on this apparently to increase the range of their own missiles that they have to their advantage right now. Okay, and they want to be able to strike inside of Russian territory using their own missiles. So if they are able to increase their strike range to 1,000 kilometers, this map shows all the targets they could go after. Okay, and imagine if Ukraine is actually able to do this at some point soon. We'll see if they're able to, but if they are, I can imagine they start unleashing hell on the Russians, start going after their airfields, going after the Kerch bridge down here. So see, this would even be covered. The Kerch bridge would be right down here. It's covered in red. So they could technically target this anywhere in Crimea and also far deep into Russian territory, probably similar strike range to their drones right now. Their drones definitely target out in this region here too. I've done multiple reports talking about that. So that's something interesting to think about. Finally, let me show you this. This came out as well just yesterday from Euromaidan Press. We will do everything we can to reach the internationally recognized borders of 1991 when Ukraine voted for independence from the USSR. We have to win to liberate our citizens who are in the occupied territories who are suffering, he told The Guardian. So this is commander of Ukraine's armed forces, Oleksandr Syrsky. He actually came out in an interview just yesterday as well, speaking to The Guardian, and he said a lot of different things about the Ukraine war. Some things, apparently the reporter was trying to ask him for certain details regarding strikes inside Russia, things like that. What are their plans for Crimea? He obviously was not willing to reveal the plans, but he talked a lot about Crimea, and he said that at some point they will try to take Crimea again, okay? Now, will they be able to do this? Who knows? Maybe they can, maybe they can't. No one really knows if they have capacity or the ability to do so. But it definitely looks, based on what we've been seeing Ukraine doing down in Crimea, chasing out the Russian warships, targeting this Port of Kavkaz, taking out this ferry, and then also targeting the Kerch bridge in the past, and now they may try to target it again at some point. Obviously, they're trying to cut off Crimea from Russia, and this may be an indication that they are trying to take it back. At least that's what it looks like on the ground here. So this was something big that came out from Oleksandr Syrsky. This is not just coming from me. He actually said this yesterday in an interview. So lots of big developments coming down here from Russia. And I just want to talk more about this Kerch bridge and this situation, kind of a follow-up video to the video we just did the other day regarding the Port of Kavkaz coming under attack by Ukrainian drones and the Slavianin ferry coming under attack and being destroyed from what we understand. So what is Russia going to do now when it comes to Crimea? At some point, do you think that maybe they'll give up Crimea? I wouldn't see them doing that. But we already know they've pulled a lot of their air defenses away from Crimea as well and started to pull them over to the eastern side of Ukraine near the border of Russia. Also, this happened right around the time that we were starting to hear that the United States was allowing Ukraine to strike inside of Russian territory. They started to move their equipment over there. Now they're moving equipment down here to the Kerch bridge. So let's see what happens here in this situation. Let's see what the Ukrainians choose to do next now that they've taken out this ferry down here at the Port of Kavkaz. So that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.